My what the fuck moment of the week. I'm pretty sure you guys saw it. It was
What's up, everybody? Back with another episode of the Targeting Podcast. We got Justin, we got John, we got Damon, and of course, your host, Jerry Caruso. And to start, we're gonna do the athlete of the week. So we're doing new bits. So we all have our own athlete of the week. So Justin, do you want us to get us started with your athlete of the week?
Sure, definitely. So this is pretty much the last week, or I guess it's NBA preseason, so that's not going to take away from athlete of the week. But pretty soon we'll have NBA going as well. So this is one of the last all NFL weeks. But Darren Waller, the tight end for the Raiders, had a ridiculous week. 13 catches for 200 yards and 2 TDs. Crazy week. I want to pick him, but it's not going to be him. It's going to be Gunnar Olszewski. The man is ridiculous. It's a little bit biased, obviously, because he's on the Patriots. But man, 183 total yards, 2 touchdowns. He is special. The way he returns punts, my God, he's special. And I hope he's here for the long term because, man, he's so fast and so shifty.
I've been waiting for him to finally pull off a game like that. I knew it was coming.
Yeah, and even obviously, so as we're recording this, Thursday Night Football has also happened. So we just got spanked by the Rams. And even in that game, he had one return for like at least 50 yards. He knows he's special. He's so shifty. He's so quick. I can't wait to see him for the rest of the season. Hopefully a few years on as well. So yeah, I'll go with Gunnar Olszewski for sure.
That's our playoff hopes right there. So that sucks, but
we'll talk about that in a bit.
We'll look our wins later. All right, John, what's your athlete of the week?
Again, I gotta give it to another phenomenal wide receiver, and on my fantasy team, Devontae. Got to give it to Devontae Adams. Him and Aaron have just been clicking lately. He came back finally in the season after coming off, a couple injuries and everything, and 10 receptions, 121 yards with 2 touchdowns, 34.1 fantasy points. That's just a great week from him. Productive week.
Definitely. Damon, what do you got for us this week?
Yeah, so my little segment's going to be the fantasy player of the week. So I was looking at all of our stats from our previous week, and I got to say Darren Waller, because 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, he got Justin 45 points. And thankfully I didn't have to face him that week, but
that is insane.
Especially for a tight end, 45 points, that's just wild.
Definitely.
Yeah, it was a crazy week from him.
Definitely. He was probably mine. I was going to go with Aaron Jones on the Packers just because he didn't have like a ton of yards, but like he had 15 rushing attempts, and on those he had 130 yards, averaging like a little over 8.5 yards per carry, and had a touchdown with that. His longest run being like a crazy 77-yarder. So
24 points.
Just those numbers in that. Yeah, those numbers in that span of time, like that many carries, is just unreal to me. So I'm probably going to give it to him, to be totally honest. Yeah.
Definitely. I like that
so
one.
So now we'll go to definitely. Justin, do you want to give us your little stat of the week, and then we can start getting in?
Sure. Yeah. Sure. So this week I'm coming in with a hockey stat. So if Wayne Gretzky had never scored a single goal in his entire career, he would still be the points leader in NHL history, which is just crazy to me. Like he literally.
I've heard of that. Yep.
That's wild.
Because he had so many assists.
He had 2,857 points in his career, and second place is 936 less, and he had 894 goals. So like he literally would still be the points leader in history if he never scored, which is crazy.
People don't even realize that it wasn't even the goals scored that gave him all that. He had the assists.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about, you have the GOAT debates across every league, every sport, except hockey. No one's ever talking about it in hockey because it's not close. He is the greatest to ever do it, and nobody will catch him. Nobody ever has caught him. He's the undisputed GOAT, and he's just so legendary. It's crazy. So
see, that's the thing in hockey. When there's a guy who's that good, you tip the hat, you respect him, you don't argue it. Because no one's like it.
That's just a crazy difference, period.
Like, he's also always been a GOAT, Justin. I don't know if you saw stories about him when he played like, U16, U18. He had like 5, 6 goals a game.
Oh, more than that. Like literally
More than
10
that.
goals a game. Like
Literally.
he was ridiculous. I know. I have seen that
Literally.
stuff when he was playing youth hockey.
Parents would come up to the coaches and say, "You can't have him playing in this league. It's not fair." And it's like, you have your kids playing. I have my kids playing. That's it. That's hockey.
Yeah, it's insane, man.
That's a very interesting stat. Never disappointed with Justin's stat of the week. Never. But yeah, we can get into my hot take and then kind of go in the NBA because it's pertaining to the NBA. So if you haven't heard, Kyrie recently went on the airwaves. You know, we are all big fans of Kyrie.
Yep.
Recently went on the airwaves calling the media pawns, and he does not speak to pawns. He only speaks to kings. And so I was thinking about just that line, and I was thinking generally just about like the Nets and like that chemistry. And I do think the Nets make the playoffs. I'm not going to say they're not going to make the playoffs because that's just ridiculous, but I don't think it's going to work as well as people think it's going to work. And my hot take, I guess, is they're going to be, I think most people think they're going to be a 3-4 seed. I think they'll fall to 6-7 because the way I think the chemistry is going to work. And for the moves, I think if Harden goes to the Sixers, like it might look like that's going to happen, then the East is going to get that much harder. And I think if the chemistry falls apart for that Nets team, it's going to be very bad. Anyone can dispute me on that, but
I'm not going to dispute you because I'm kind of in agreement. That's what I always thought. The Nets were going to be pretty low with this chemistry. I
Justin
never really
looks
had
like he wants to say something, so I'll give it to him.
No, I think that there's a number of things to hit on in all of what you just said there, including Harden to Philly potentially, and just the Nets' success in general, and Kyrie even making that statement. And I'll break it down. I'll start off with Kyrie just making that statement, and it really is just every time he opens his mouth, you lose respect for him. Like you realize that he is just a toxin. I mean, there's no other way to put it other than Kyrie Irving is toxic. It's just a fact. Like he's just not going to be good for your team. And when it comes down to the Nets' success, like you said, I think it's either going to click really well and they're going to be the 1 seed and be ridiculous and walk to the NBA Finals. It's either going to work really well or it's not going to work at all. And I think I'm more inclined to think of the latter as what's going to happen because between Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, they're both such they're just so bold. Their personalities are so strong, and I don't know. I don't necessarily think it works great either.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to work great. I'm not a huge Kyrie guy, and Kevin just, you know, you bring up a good point. He's another bold character who I just think if you're having a bad game, I just don't see those two really lifting each other up on the court. You know, I feel like it's really just going to be just, you know, when they're doing bad and the chemistry isn't clicking, it's just going to fall apart. It's just a house of cards. There's no way to pick it back up. It's going to tumble.
You said you thought there would be the latter, right? You got out a little bit, but yeah.
Oh yeah.
I agree. I agree with you there. The reason is this seems so similar to the Kyrie LeBron thing that it just seems like you're putting your. I mean, like obviously KD and LeBron are two different players, but you're throwing yourself into a situation where you tried it, it didn't work. You're just trying it with a different player. It'd be like, and this is a stupid analogy, but I'm just going to make it. It'd be like if you hate math class and you just think one teacher is going to change it. It's not going to and you might think that it might change your love for the subject, but it ain't going to work at the end of the day if you truly don't like it. So my point there is you have a great player in KD. You had a great player in LeBron. You had literally the best in the league with LeBron. Why do you think it's going to work any better with someone who arguably wants the ball just as much as LeBron? And you might have, whatever respect you should have had for LeBron, you didn't. So how are you going to just translate that to KD? And I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know if that's going to work. My biggest problem with the statement is NBA players talk about it all the time, and you guys can dispute this if you want, but they talk about it all the time, right? Like the media just doesn't know what it's like to be in these guys' shoes. They make so much money. They're literally crazy at basketball. And their biggest gut with the media is that they just don't like they just don't know enough about the game to be talking about it with them. You know what I mean? Like the questions seem just repetitive, but it's kind of where I think Kyrie and like other players need to respect the media in the sense. And obviously, if in my opinion, if you're making that much money anyway, what's 10 minutes with the media going to do with you? I don't know, but that's just my personal opinion. But what I'm trying to say is the media just in general, like they're just trying to get questions out of you to like talk for people to talk about in the general public, for people like us to talk about in the general public. If we just look at your game, there's not that much to talk about unless if you're, and instead of they ask you, oh, why did you not score as much today? And you go, well, you know, Katie's kind of being a bitch or something like that, then that's a lot more of a news story than just like, yeah, Katie played like shit tonight. So I think they got to respect the media in that, and they're just trying to make a story. They're just trying to do their part. But I already did not have respect for Kyrie, so this just kind of further than that. But it
I
was
don't
just
think
crazy
Kyrie
to
will
hear him
ever
say
get my
that.
respect back. I don't think he'll ever get my respect back. He could donate to 1,000 charities, and it wouldn't change anything for
I
me.
think it's
You know,
still.
it's a great thing. I'm not saying don't donate to the charities. I'm just saying it's not going to do anything. I mean, he ruined his stint in
I
Boston.
just think for as good a player as he is, if he took it back even a little bit, just a little bit of the, the like just him talking out loud and not necessarily talking for it, or just giving up the ball a little more, I think he could be one of the best point guard in the league. I mean, he still is. I'm not saying he's not, but he could be what every team wants. He could be that point guard that every team wants, because I think every team still does want him because he's special. He's a special player. His ball handling skills are. I
feel like
don't know. I don't even know how to describe them.
Before the
But
stuff in Boston, everyone wanted him.
Everyone
I still
wanted
think
him.
it's a hot take though, Jerry, because we were talking about this before. What about Harden? Where is he going to fit in and whatnot? That's the whole thing. But at the end of the day, they're two good players, and although they may not have the best chemistry, they could still make something work. I don't see them as
Yeah.
low as 6 or 7. I could see them at 4 or 5, but
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
still so much we don't know. So
It'll be interesting to see. But yeah, we can also talk about Harden, kind of going, where is Harden going to go? It looks like
Real quick
Philly
though,
right now. Go ahead,
I will
Justin.
say while we're still talking about the Nets, I think that it's not just on KD and Kyrie. I mean, it is a lot, obviously, hugely on KD and Kyrie where they're going to finish in the East. But I think that the construction of that team, with the third option being Karis LeVert, you have Kyrie, KD, Karis LeVert, who are all dominant ISO players. You have two big men down low in Jared Allen and DeAndre Jordan that have no spacing whatsoever. I mean, you also still will have Spencer Dinwiddie. You'll have Joe Harris. You'll have guys like that. So it's a good team, but it's going to be a lot of ISO. I could see them having a lot of chemistry issues and just low assist numbers every night. One of the worst passing teams in the league.
I know they got guys like that. I know they got guys like Karis LeVert who like they're special players, like Spencer Dinwiddie. I love Spencer Dinwiddie, but the problem is you're looking at it like the same thing where when Kyrie and LeBron were together, Kevin Love was on that team, and Kevin Love's a pretty good player, but he just did not fit in on that team. They just completely made, like, he still produced.
They forced him into a corner 3 shooter when he was a post dominant
when he was a post player,
which
which is not his game. And when they forced it to be his game, he just didn't produce as much as he needed to. So, or he could have. So that's what I think is going to happen in Brooklyn, where it's like they're running the show. So it's like Karis LeVert, guys like that could potentially shine, are not going to even be able to get the chance to, let alone do it. So that's how I think it's going to break down ultimately. But
I think if you try to turn, which I think they're going to have to do this, and it's not going to work great. I think if you try to turn Spencer Dinwiddie and Karis LeVert into catch and shoot 3-point shooters, sure, they're good 3-point shooters as players, but that's not their game. Their game isn't catch and shoot. Their game is with the ball in their hands, creating a shot for themselves.
Yeah.
And if you just have a whole handful of players that are all great ISO players, that often does cause chemistry issues and might result in them getting a lower seed. I could definitely see them being a lower seed, especially with Philly getting the spacing they needed with Seth Curry. You're still going to have Miami. You're going to have Atlanta, who's brought in a bunch of pieces. There's a lot of teams that are fighting in that East for those higher seeds.
The
You
East
still
has
got
become.
It's becoming
Go
dumb.
ahead,
You still have
Jose.
the Celtics. I was just gonna say you still got the Celtics. Raptors are
Bucks
still
are still the
alive.
Bucks. Raptors is
Bucks.
You still have a lot of.
Bucks are still hanging on. I mean, the East is really turning into a competitive, and I like it. I like it because it's now not going to be really as predictable as we thought. So I like these moves, and I definitely want to see Harden come into the East because I think
And
that's
now
going to mix things up.
now you got Washington all of a sudden a force. So
And Washington, I forgot about that. Yep.
yeah, so you have all these teams that are forced that like it's kind of like you got to make this work, or if you don't make this work, like it's not like if you don't make this work, then you're still gonna be able to beat these East teams that are just not that good. Like no, they'll beat you if you're not if you're not in touch with each other.
If other teams weren't making these big moves like the 76ers and and the Bucks, and if these teams weren't making these moves that they needed to or they didn't succeed, I'd say sure, you could maybe.
If I would have said if we were having this conversation same time last year and like Kyrie and KD were playing, right? I wouldn't be saying this because I would still say that the East is just not that powerful yet to where like Kyrie and KD can still not get along, but they can get along well enough to like win a game. Now it's like if you're not getting along, like even if you're both putting up 30 like a piece, you're still not going to beat teams like the Hawks, just any of the East teams like Bucks, Raptors, any of those teams, because those teams, the ones that do have good chemistry, will find a way to beat you, and it will probably be like
every team we just listed off is like they're filling up the spots. I can guarantee half those teams we said are filling up those spots, and I can say with confidence, I think the Hawks will probably pull it off with the chemistry that they got going. Hopefully, if that works out for them, and Washington as well.
And
Washington as well. And Washington always has been a team that they've been close to making it. Some seasons they've struggled without John Wall and the injury, but I think they're a team that can still pull through because they got Beal, and now Russ comes over in the East, and he seems to be coming to practice early. It seems to be working out. It seems to be working out for him. So I'm happy for him. And I wanted obviously that to work out for them. So I feel like the Nets really it's a do or die. If this doesn't work, you've just basically thrown all your cards in and there's nothing you can do now. You got to somehow make it work, or they're going to request a trade in the future and you're going to have to basically rebuild and figure out what the hell you're doing. Because those two players are just players that they're so bold, they will say what's exactly on their mind, like you said. Like I'm not surprised he said that to the media, and I'm not surprised if he walks into that locker room one day and throws it all at the rest of the players on the team for a loss.
Yeah. I mean, again, we'll see, but that's where I think this is going. But we can talk about Harden like a little bit. I know we talk about Harden and Russ like almost every week, but do you guys
it
think
does seem that way? They've been the news of
it does seem like that
for sure.
Yeah.
I think it's now dying down with Russ making it finally on another team, which I think we definitely saw coming. Harden, I'm still like, I think he's gonna keep this season in Houston and play it out with Wall, and I think if it all goes well,
I don't know.
I think dude,
he
like,
wants out. He is. He's like I only want to play for. He's like, I only want to play for a contending team, and then adds 3 more teams to the list. Like he wants out. He's trying to find a way out.
And I just feel bad for Wall coming in there too, because now Wall, he's getting back. He seems to be clicking after the couple, after the other night. And again, go knock on wood with Wall. He's injury prone, but I'd love to see the Wall Harden duo work out. But Harden definitely seems like he wants out, and I feel like the last thing the Nets should do is go for Harden. But there's still a team that's contending for him. Like
I agree. I think if Harden went to Brooklyn, I think that would be the most talented big 3 to never win a championship, which would be it'd be a huge thing that they never win. And I can tell you right now, they would not win a championship. I don't think, at least. with those
I think
three
the
players. The
76ers
way their personalities and the way they're just so ISO
I
dominant.
agree.
I think the
Yeah,
76ers is his place.
Yeah, Brooklyn said though, because I thought he was originally going to go in Brooklyn because I know he wants to go to Brooklyn. I think Brooklyn might be even as like if Houston agreed to get a deal that kept Kyrie and KD in Brooklyn and Harden could still go there, I think he would go there. The problem is, and the Nets have said this, Houston has said this, they will not engage in a deal that doesn't involve at least Kyrie or KD. And that's the big problem.
The Nets won't be given anything back like that.
The Houston's like, if we're going to give you Harden, a guy like Harden, which is fair, you're going to have to give us Kyrie or KD. You don't have to give us both of them, but you have to give us at least one in addition to definitely other.
To be honest, in that case, if I'm Brooklyn, I would be willing to do Kyrie for Harden. I would be willing to do that. Just being honest.
I would be too. The problem is
pretty interesting.
I would be too, but the problem is I don't know if Houston would necessarily.
You already have.
Then you got John Wall and Kyrie. Like, what are you saying?
I would rather get KD and Wall going and Kyrie and Harden.
Justin, here's what I'm saying. That seems like ideal. If you can have Harden and KD on the same team, I think that works beautifully.
I don't even think Brooklyn's gonna want all three. It's just not gonna work. They can't.
No, they might want all three, but they're not going to want to give.
Even if they want it, they're not going to get it.
Their value for Harden, they'll have to give up their whole rest of their team and keep all three.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you right now, Brooklyn would not ever be willing to give Durant for Harden because Durant is no doubt the best player on that team. It would basically be Kyrie or no Kyrie, and I would be willing to give Kyrie if it means you get Harden. I don't know if the Rockets are willing to. Like you said, they do have John Wall, but I don't think John Wall is enough to keep them from trading for Kyrie. But either way, because they could get a Kyrie for a James Harden, they're probably not getting much better value elsewhere.
I mean, you just got John Wall.
Even if it is 2 point guards, John Wall can play. I think John Wall and Kyrie could play in the backcourt together because John Wall is a good defender and he's one of the best shot blocking guards we've seen.
I think he could make it work. I still think just the ideal situation for Harden, for all parties, would probably be the 76ers, but. Yeah.
I think the Sixers would be interesting because I don't know what that deal.
I don't know what the deal entails, but I feel like it's going to work out for both teams because the whole Kyrie John Wall just like again we're not Kyrie fans, so I just don't like seeing Kyrie go into an arena with John Wall, who is just I have so much respect for him. And I finally see him coming back and hopefully going to have a good season. I just don't like seeing a toxic player like Kyrie just ruin his chances, you know?
If Harden goes to the Sixers, though, the East, I think, is solidified, like, at that point.
The East is tough. The East is tough.
I think it's solid. Because I know we were talking about the West, and we're like, the West has got teams.
The West is they're kind of leveling out right now because a lot of those West players are coming over. We got Russ and Harden coming over now.
I agree. I agree that it's leveling out to some extent. I will absolutely not say it's even though, because when you still,
I'm not going to say it's even.
It's not even. No, it's not even. No, it's not even. But it's leveling out because when you look at
it's leveling out though. There's going to be good teams in the East that miss the playoffs, which is really what happens in the West as well. So, like you said, it's definitely leveling out because there will be good teams that miss in both sides now. So. I don't know. What I will say, though, is that if Harden's going to get moved, I need it to happen before the season starts. I don't want, like, I'm sure you guys remember 2 years ago with Anthony Davis in New Orleans, sitting there not playing all season. They don't want him to play. They don't let him play. They do. He gets to play 3 games. Like, I don't want to deal with that. He's refusing to play and sitting on the bench. Like, if he's going to get moved, let's make it happen. Let's get on with, and let's see him there in Premier Week because I need come on. I don't want to see Harden sit on the bench all year because of this.
No, I think we all agree on that.
I think he wants to get moved. It's just
it does definitely seem like he wants to get moved now. I mean,
it definitely seems like he wants to get moved, but the Rockets want the most beautiful.
Is he cutting out for you guys?
Yeah, he did just cut out there.
Yeah, he just cut out there.
I was just saying. It's my bad. I was just saying that the Rockets want the most beautiful deal, and they're not going to get it.
The Rockets, I think, are going to
Like,
be the ones that
for-
lose out a little bit on the Harden deal.
Totally.
They're not
No
going to get
doubt.
as much. They're not going to get anything as equal to Harden, no matter how much.
They're
No matter how
gonna
much you really trade.
They're going to lose out on it, but they don't want to.
Right.
They're
They're trying. I think bringing Wall in, they're
maximize
trying to
value.
keep him. They're trying to keep him, but they know that ultimately, if it's going to be like Russ, where he just keeps demanding a trade, you can't do anything. You can't force him to stay.
The biggest thing I say they could do is just get draft picks.
Yeah,
They're already a decent team.
they need
like,
draft.
find a decent player and get a shit ton of draft picks. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you really
Yeah.
got to just trade Harden for a decent player and like 2-3 draft picks, really.
It sucks
Mhm.
for them because they've already given up draft picks to get Chris Paul and then to get Russell Westbrook. So now they have
And
to
now
get them back.
now they got John Wall, and I mean they didn't have to give up. They didn't have to give up any, but still you're investing a lot into you got Russ. You wasted draft picks on Russ, then you throw him over for John Wall, so you didn't get any draft picks back. So it's really like you're losing out on the draft picks that you gave up.
Right.
So.
Other NBA news, I'd say probably the only other big news would be Paul George signed a 5-year max and a real big max. I don't know if it's technically the super max or not, but it's like $47.5 million a year for the next 5 years. Like,
yeah,
that's a lot of money for Paul George. I think
That
he's
might
on the
be the
wrong
worst
side of 30.
I find it funny because people were tweeting back at him. He said he wanted to finish his career in LA with the Clippers, and someone said that's such cap. I think it was
that might be the worst. That might be the worst contract I've seen in a while.
Well, Gordon Hayward did just sign for 30 a year for 4 years.
Yeah, Gordon Hayward's was pretty bad.
I'd still definitely say
that's true, but
this is even more.
I'd say the 3 worst contracts in basketball are still Gordon Hayward, Tobias Harris, and Al Horford. But it's not good. It's a lot of money for Paul George, who heavily underperformed in the playoffs. I mean, Paul George is still a great player. 1 year ago, not including this first year in LA, when he was in OKC, he was just a top 3 candidate for MVP. Like he's still a really good player. He can get back to it. But they have new coaching in LA. I mean, he's going to be good. That's a lot of money. Kawhi might not even be there at the end of that deal. So
it's a competitive league right now with all these star players trying to shoot for that MVP and trying to shoot for the playoffs. So it's really like if you have one bad season, you're falling off the map for a while. You got to really climb back up because everyone else is not waiting for you. That's the thing I'm looking at right now with John Wall. Like back in 2017, this guy is a star player. He deserves so many candidacies, and he falls off the map for a couple of years with injuries. And now he's really got to perform to show that he's still that material for Houston, which I'm not doubting that he isn't. It's just you're going to be playing these teams. Guys are, you know how they are on the court. So
yeah, I think Gordon Hayward's a little more reason. I don't think it's reasonable, the contract itself, but I think it's more reasonable than this Paul George one, just because he's coming off the injury. He's still like in Boston. He just didn't have that much, in my opinion, opportunity to shine or like as his maximum potential. So I think we need to see him more minutes. If he gets more minutes, what does he do with those minutes? And then see if that contract is truly as bad. Because Paul George, it feels like he underperformed in the playoffs. I'm not saying he's a bad player necessarily, but he underperformed in the playoffs. So if he does bad, it's way worse for the Clippers for that contract than it is for if Hayward plays bad, then it's like, all right, we kind of knew this was gonna happen, like little, but Paul George, he plays bad. That's a lot of money to get out. At least Charlotte has, I mean, obviously the Clippers have other pieces too, but that's probably one of your bigger guys from Paul George. I mean, I don't think Charlotte, I think Hayward's more just another piece. So I don't know. But John, what is your what the fuck moment of the week?
My what the fuck moment of the week, I'm pretty sure you guys saw it. It was taking me a while to figure out if it was even relevant to this week because I didn't remember. But let me find I want to make sure I get the players right. So it was the Bengals-Dolphins game.
I saw this. They had a full-on brawl in this game.
Yep.
Yeah.
So normally, so my what the fuck moment, I'll give a little description. You don't see in the NFL benches clearing. You don't. You usually see offense comes out, defense all comes out, and you just have the refs splitting it up. Coaches never really come out ever. They step onto the field a little bit. You normally have the training staff coming out and splitting it up. You usually see full out bench clearings in hockey and baseball, basically. NFL, I don't know, there's just so many players you don't see that happening. After this play, so Mike Thomas on the Bengals. So it's a punt, it's a punt. And I think it was Jakeem Grant for the Dolphins. Yep, Jakeem Grant is trying to receive it. And right as the ball is coming into his hands, so the ball's like easily 5 feet in the air still above him. Mike Thomas plows head first. He's going head first, shoulder in, and nails him right in the gut and knocks him on the ground. And the ball hits Mike Thomas in the back and rolls away immediately. I don't even think anyone went for the ball. Like, they let the ball just go dead. And everyone just starts jumping on Mike Thomas. Like, all the Dolphins players cleared the bench. I think Brian Flores came out onto the field and went yelling at the Bengals players, the refs. He even almost went fully across the field to the Bengals coach and almost just attacked him. It's just like, this bench clearing, I think, was fully in its right, because you never see with these types of plays another player. Normally players, when they're running after the punt, they're staggering when they're running so that they can, especially like Justin was talking, you got a shifty guy like Gunner. You're going to see where he's going. You never really just full on attack him unless you have some bad blood against this player. And I think there was something that they were discussing between these two teams and these two players. Something happened, I'm assuming, earlier in the game, because this just shouldn't happen. The ball was still 5 feet in the air. Unless the ball is like landing right in his hands, you have no right. Like, the ball was clearly not even there. He was tracking the ball the whole way. So my what the fuck moment is just basically like, I'm just appalled that this even happened. And I've lost a little respect for that player and the Bengals staff for even allowing that, because I'm sure they've seen this player probably getting heated on the side. And you really got to be telling them. I mean, again, you can only control so much, but you got to be letting your team know you can't be having that. And I'm hoping he got a talking to after the game, because that is just, especially when you lean your head down and your shoulders leaned in, like in a full, like, it's not even like a wraparound tackle. It's like you're trying to just ram this guy, literally. That's full intention. That's full intention to put as much pain into this player when you tackle him as possible.
Yeah,
I was disgusted with this play. Like, I was actually disgusted. You have the video?
I have the
Okay.
Yeah.
You share
But I can share. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just, and I'm not even exaggerating it. It's just a full on, like, bad. This guy tried to basically clothesline him, and you see him tracking the ball the whole way. Like, he's clearly before this Dolphins player here on the right. He's going to get to the ball. So, like, see the separation? He gets to the ball so soon.
Trying to feel the punt got crushed.
Yep. Right there. The little laggy. Actually, the Dolphins did recover.
It's very laggy. It's very
Dolphins.
laggy.
So you see it right here. The ball was still like 5 feet in the air. He just leans in. Thank God that he went a little too low to do any real damage.
If you're not expecting that you're going to get the wind knocked out of you at the least.
I know.
Whiplash, really.
Exactly. So Jakeem Grant was on the ground for a couple minutes, I think, getting looked at. I think he got the wind knocked out of him, and he was lucky, because the way that hit took place, I was thinking he was easily going to come out of there with like a hyperextended knee or more, by the way that tackle looked.
Think about it. You're not expecting it. You're going to hit your head on the ground pretty hard.
And the whiplash, you're right. And that's another thing that you really have to, that I think I think most people are in agreement that the NFL needed to strengthen those rules on concussions. It's a shame because you don't get to see as many big hits, but you really got to watch out for the protection of those players. And I think
they're pretty tight already, though.
They are tight already.
You're going to get that bad seed.
They're going to get, I think over the years, after you see, like, I'm throwing a real far one back, Montez Perfect against Antonio Brown, when Antonio Brown just almost looked like he was paralyzed. Just a complete blindside.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was about to say too, is that, that's so unacceptable. And it makes you think about, it's just the Bengals. That's just what the Bengals do. It's Vontez Perfect. It's scummy plays like this, cheap shots. And I want to see Joe Burrow change that reputation for Cincinnati. And I think he will. Of course, he's injured right now. And the second he goes down, they're pulling like the shit again. It's like, man, it's so frustrating to watch. And like, I have so much respect for punt returners. I don't know how you can sit there knowing there's 11 guys running full speed down that field to literally take your head
I
off.
would fair
And-
catch this
and
thing every
you're literally-
time.
I fair catch it every time. I mean, I don't know how you can stand there and just even catch that at all. I could not even catch it. I literally couldn't catch it. There's no way. And
Second,
to
you look
literally
it's
to
hard,
pull a
too.
cheap shot like that, where you're literally going is all that freaking momentum. I mean, and he didn't even get ejected or nothing. There was a
messed
flag on
up.
the play, so they had to re-punt it. And he's out there for the next play.
see
Mike
that,
Thomas.
that's
You know the
How does he
thing.
not get ejected?
that's when the
the thing
NFL
with-
needs to step in and really change.
Yeah,
that.
the thing with
That's
that too, because that was full intentional. That was not like a miss. That was not like a miscalculation or anything. The ball
No.
you see in the video was still like 3, 4, 5 feet in the air. It was easily, if you look this up on YouTube and you look up some old highlights, because I have, and you see like some players who are catching the ball. Sometimes they catch it, and right as they catch it and look up, then they get hit because they don't have time to fair catch or call fair catch. And you feel bad for those players too, because imagine you catch that ball, you're about ready to run, you are looking up in the air, then you look down, and then you're just getting nailed. But this guy, Jakeem Grant didn't even look down. He didn't even look forward. He was still looking in the air. That's the other thing that annoys me. He's getting his head thrown back while he's still up in the air.
Yeah, it's a very tough position. You just because if you don't catch it, then if the other team has every right to just nail you
But-
and try to get the ball.
And this
No.
is where I come to my what the fuck moment, is when you don't even have the chance to catch it. And it's a clear intentional, the ball is still in the air. Because I've seen some plays where the ball is just even bent. There are some videos worse than that, surprisingly, with players doing this
Yeah.
to get back at other guys.
I think it's similar to what Justin said. It's definitely just the Bengals. Like it's just like a culture
Oh
thing
yeah,
at this point.
you're
that they
a
need to
terrible
change
team
around.
over
They're
the
always
past how many
They're
years?
always getting cheap shots like this.
You're a
they've
team that
always
sucks
been getting
every
cheap
single
shots
year,
like-
and you finally, since you had, you're just a team that sucks almost every single year now in the past couple of years. So what do you have else to do but just try and injure every single player on the field?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying like, if you're playing a team, you hope that their best players are injured, or you hope that a couple players are injured, but you don't hope that they're injured in like
Again, you shouldn't be
intentional way.
No.
Your injury, if it's accidental, that's one thing. Because football, I feel like there's a lot of things where it's like, all right, like if they somehow trip and then you were kind of going at their stomach and now you're going at their head, accidents happen. I'm not gonna say like judge on issues like this. This is clearly just he's still looking up, trying to get the ball, and he's just
He
getting
dove.
nailed.
He dove right at him.
no
He didn't even
reason.
like. He dug his feet in
Yeah,
and
for
dove
no
right into him.
reason. Like, and another thing I don't get is like the Bengals do this shit all the time where it's like it's not even like an important play they're doing it on. Like it's not like he's like one of the speediest like runners in the league and he's gonna get past. No, like it's not like these dire moments where they're like making these big hits. It's completely random parts of the game, which I just think is unacceptable. I think the NFL, I don't know if you can, because the problem is if you keep tightening these concussion protocols, you're kind of losing the flow of football. And I'm not saying that these players should be like giving their lives for the game, but I think it's more of you just got to be taking accountability for these teams. I think the Bengals should be just as soon as these hits happen, fine after fine after fine after fine, that they just have to give up these players. So I agree with Justin where I'm hoping Joe Burrow will change it, but it's sad to see like these hits happen again.
Vontaze, another thing that, and we'll move on in a second, but Vontaze Burfict was a player that just never, that like when you're a team and a player does something like that the first time, it's unacceptable. You give him the benefit of the doubt, it's unacceptable, and you move on from it. And you make sure he knows that they're not going to tolerate that. Vontaze Burfict did this, I think, 3 times. Because I can remember like at least he was just a dirty player overall, but he had at least 3 or 4 occasions where he got fined for doing things like this. And if you hit
at that point,
and
they're not playing football. They're just trying to hurt people. And
right,
like,
but it's not even
like,
that. It's not even the league's fault. It's on the team. I don't care if you're a new coach. I don't care if you're the old coach or the new manager, the old manager, the owner. Someone's got to walk up to this player and say, look, we're not keeping you on the team if you're going to do this. Because it's not just you getting fined, it's us getting fined, and also it's a bad look on us. No one wants to come to
I'm
a team who's
surprised
just
it's
going to.
not a. Yeah, well, we
need a
can go into
culture
NHL
change
after
there.
this. Yeah, we can go into NHL after this, but I'm just surprised it's not like a. I mean, do you guys remember the Saints had that the bounty issue a couple years ago, where the coach of the Saints was trying to like literally like he was like calling guys out. He's like, if you hit this guy this hard, like you will be rewarded. And again, it's probably not that like serious on Cincinnati, but these hits keep happening.
There's just a thing in the NFL still, and I don't want
It'd
them
be
to
interesting
change.
to see if you can investigate that locker room and be like, are you like, what are you teaching?
Yeah, what are you
them? Or
talking
just,
about?
Like, what
Yeah.
are you talking like? I don't know. I think it'd be interesting.
I think the
But,
NFL doesn't need to really tighten the regulations. I mean, we know that the commissioner is the worst commissioner I've ever seen in the history of commissioners, but
literally.
but just the
Wow.
NFL, I think they have great policy ideas, but I think putting them in place in a sport that already is just such an old school game that people want to play it the way that it was supposed to be played. You don't want to take away from the whole game, but you also need to have a balance between the game, but also like protecting players. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things. Like in hockey, we have up days, and we're gonna get into that. So it's a good transition. And in the NHL, you have good days and bad days. And Justin, hell as me knows in the playoffs sometimes it gets a little iffy with certain refs, where they'll call everything or they'll call nothing. And sometimes they have a good ref who balances it out. And Wes McCauley, God, what a guy!
Wes,
Usually,
what a guy.
usually made the right calls. But you see some newer refs that are just first-time refs now playing in these playoffs, and just you've seen in the NHL though, they protect the player most of the time, almost all the time. But sometimes it's just a complete blatant like ignorance, and I think it comes down to the ref doesn't want to second guess themselves or whatever. It really just has to come. Whatever your first instinct is, just call it. You can always blow the whistle and then just say there was no call.
Yeah, well, even in that case, like hockey, I feel like, and you and Justin can speak more on this, but I feel like it's a lot different just because it's so much, in my opinion, this could be totally wrong, so call me out. But in my opinion, if you're on skates and you're going so quick at a guy, like you're about to give him a nice blow into the boards, it's a lot harder to stop on skates when you've already fully committed to hitting a player than it would be if you're under your own feet in football trying to stop. Like, in my opinion, if you're a punt returner, right, and you're going full speed at a guy, right, if he's not calling fair catch, just run up to him quickly as you can, and then you can fully, chop your feet and stop.
Or you see people guys just turn.
Yeah, or just turn, or like fall another way. Or like just kind of, but you got pads on and everything else, and those hockey dudes are big. You're gonna hit them some form or the other. You might not be your whole body like you were intending to, but it's pretty hard to get out of the way. So I feel like, if anything, that should be more excused in a situation like that than in this.
I think Justin and I both have had our moments where you're skating after the puck, you're skating after a player as fast as you can, you're going into the boards, and you just lose an edge. And it's just a thing that happens. You can lose an edge. You can, nothing is perfect. So you can usually stop in time, but I mean, it's not always the case. You're going to have a moment where you slip up, you're going to lose an edge, you're going to, make the wrong move. Hockey is also dangerous in its sense that you're literally playing on weapons on your feet. I mean, I'm just going to simplify it for people who don't watch it. You literally have a weapon on your foot. Like Justin and I have seen a highlight. Some guy was skating after the puck and it was going to the goalie, and Justin and I have both seen it. Guy gets hit and he just falls backwards and his skate goes up and slices the goalie's neck. Immediately the goalie starts bleeding on the ice, and he immediately just left the ice. His whole neck was bleeding.
Remember when we went to a Bruins game?
He could have died too. And yep, the player went into the boards and he was unconscious for like 10 minutes.
Ottawa. And I feel bad I don't remember his name. I should, except it literally, he was like a fourth line rookie, and it literally that play knocked him out of his NHL career. Like, he's not been back in the league since. And I if I saw the name, I'd remember. But yeah, I mean, that was crazy.
Unconscious for 11 minutes. He was unconscious for 11 minutes.
Yeah, it was literally.
We were
minutes
watching
and
the
minutes and
clock. It
minutes.
was
You're just
11
sitting there
minutes, and then
going,
at like the 11th minute, he started stirring, and then it was like 15 more minutes until he got up off the ice. Like they almost brought out
Yeah.
I don't even know if they actually brought out the gurney, but I think they picked him up and carried him.
I believe he was stretchered off. If I recall
I think he was
correctly.
stretchered off
I think
just
he
in
was-
case,
Stretchered off.
because
He didn't
his
get up.
and he did it to himself. No one hit him. He went in for a hit. Bergeron, I think it was. I'm pretty sure it was Bergeron because I was pissed that
I'm not sure.
almost Bergie, but Bergeron had stepped back from the hit, and this player went head first into the boards.
Yeah, he went head first in the boards. He did initiate
And he
yeah.
initiated the hit, and because obviously he didn't have enough time to move, and there's boards there. You know, you're not running
It was
off
Scott
the sideline.
Saborin. Scott
Yep.
Saborin on Ottawa.
He went right off into the side, and he literally
was
got
David
bad
Backes.
whiplash. He got bad whip. Oh, it was David Backes. That's who it was. It was bad whiplash, and I felt bad for him. But again, there's not much you can do when you initiate the hit. Backes does a great play of moving out of the way, and you have no way of stopping yourself from going into the boards. It's just he just went in at the wrong angle, and that's the hockey and football both have their their own things that you got to worry about, but I'll always be the candidate for saying that hockey is one of the toughest sports to play, just physically and also just in general. Football is tough as well. I'm not gonna give that less credit, but I just feel like with skates on and also just boards, like hard ass fucking plexiglass boards, and you have other players that are wearing these skates and everything too, and it's not as big of a field as it's a rink, but it's not as big as a football field where you can try and move out of the way, where you can run out of off the sidelines. There's nowhere to go. You're stuck literally in a tank. So the only way to go is off on the bench, and still we see people getting full on hit over the bench. And
Real quick too with baseball, I mean, you got metal spikes in the bottom. You guys all heard
That's
of
another
it,
thing.
right? When you go to second base and you're stealing any base, and the person who's playing that position, they're standing there getting ready to tag you out, but you're sliding in, you can cleat them in the ankles. I mean, even in my high school days, like that's something that's you see quite often. And then obviously depending on where you are in the field, you're jumping, you're gonna hit the fence. A lot of people, you've seen those crazy sports center plays too. With every sport, it's just like you gotta be careful of your surroundings.
pitching, Dame.
Gonna be
Even pitching. You get a 100-mile-an-hour fastball to the elbow, and you don't have one of your guards on that end. Oh my god! Like, it's every sport. I'm not taking credit away from any sport. Every sport's got their problems that they got to deal with.
Oh, it does. But at the end of the day, we wouldn't watch sports so religiously if it was dangerous. It's great.
Right. There's a thrill about it when you're playing, but there's a difference between intention versus just playing the sport.
100%. And I think that
this was full intention, and it wasn't just like he's playing the play out and he meant to stop or anything. Because most players that you see when they call a fair catch or they're trying to catch it, if they're coming in too fast, you see them turn away a little bit and then they come in, or they just veer off.
Yeah, it's just like that in all sports, though. Sorry, Jerry, you going?
Yeah, you're good. You can say what you're gonna say. Mine was off a different point.
Nah, it's just with all sports.
I was just gonna say that. Yeah, I miss NBA old school basketball because I was like, none of it was intentional, but all of it was like, someone just elbows you and then you can punch them.
It was rough, bro. It was rough.
You probably get a technical foul. You might not get ejected, but.
One of my favorite stories in old school basketball, completely off topic, is just Larry Bird, just an absolute legend. He went I think he smacked the court when someone knocked him down, and he went blind in his left eye. And I think he did something to his thumb, maybe.
Yeah.
So he came into the game and shot lefty, and he scored more points lefty than he did on his other hand.
Yeah, it's just a different game, I think.
It's a different game.
You're not having as much fights. It's honestly quite sad in my opinion, but we can talk about that another time. But I think we can wrap up from here. John and Justin, do you have any NHL news?
Just real quick,
I guess the last thing would just be that the season is reinstated for January 13 to start for the NHL. So we'll be getting hockey back soon enough. We got preseason basketball all week. Next week, we got regular season NBA basketball, baby. I'm hyped. I'm absolutely hyped. We got a great slate of games for the opening week in the NBA as well. So it's going to be very fun to just be able to watch basketball again. We'll have soon enough, we'll have all three sports going with NFL, NBA, and NHL. So it'll be good. And MLB will be starting up soon enough in a few months. We'll see about that. But for now, we'll
They
just
don't
enjoy
seem to
these three.
be. I'm scared about the NHL trying to get back in. Doesn't seem like MLB has any discussions at the moment. I haven't heard any
MLB's
news.
outside at the least.
Yeah. I mean, they are outside, but another thing that we have to think about too is hockey is trying to get outside as well. A lot of hockey teams are trying to get outside, and they use
100% go to that.
No,
they
that's
use,
that's
but
going on.
hockey rinks they use the MLB stadiums a lot. I mean, the Bruins at least use Fenway a lot, so I don't know. They're gonna have to do a lot of changing in and out, and the
Well,
Celtics
you
will have the
do it
court.
at certain areas. Like you can't do it down in Fort. Like those teams are all gonna have to come up. I think you'll see maybe a bubble. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, another thing too on the NHL, real quick before we wrap up, is actually the divisions are changing up a little bit.
I saw that. Yep.
So I can't find it, but basically all Canadian teams are going to be in one together because they don't want
And then
Canadians.
it's basically the Metro just add the Bruins and the Rangers, I think. No, the
Yeah, so
Rangers are already
basically
in the
they're trying to
Metro.
keep all
Rangers are
the
already in
teams that
Metro.
are
Shit.
they're trying to keep all the teams on the East and North Coast together, all the teams out west together, because the way the divisions are set up, there's a little crossover here and there. So they're just trying to separate the United States and just block
Just
sections.
basically minimizing travel for Corona. That's what they're doing. So
Yeah.
I don't think this is a permanent division change. I think it's just for this season.
And it's not going to do much. They're still going to basically do East West, and they're going to split it up, I think, by these teams make it at the top, whatever teams. So there's not any issue there.
Yep.
So that's it for NHL and NBA and NFL. I think this week.
Call it a
I
day.
think we hit it all. Thank you guys for joining us once again. If you made it this far, please like and subscribe the channel. And yeah, boys, it was nice talking to you today.
Yeah, it's been real, boys.
Sorry, last week.
Peace.
Peace.